Trains, powerful, unstoppable, and built to run on time. But when something goes wrong, the consequences are anything but predictable. In a matter of seconds, steel twists, lives are lost, and entire towns are shaken. Some of these disasters were caused by human error, others by fate. This is 10 in 10, and these are the 10 deadliest train disasters in history. And each one changed the tracks of history forever. On June 4th, 1989, two passenger trains were passing each other near the city of Ufa in the Soviet Union when a massive explosion erupted beneath the tracks. A leaking gas pipeline had filled the surrounding air with fuel vapor, and a single spark from the trains ignited it. The resulting fireball engulfed both trains, killing 575 people and injuring hundreds more, many of them children returning from summer camp. The blast was so powerful it registered on seismographs and lit up the sky for miles. It remains one of the deadliest train disasters the world has ever seen. A tragic collision of neglect and timing. On December 12, 1917, a French military train was carrying over 1,000 soldiers home from the Italian front when it derailed on a steep mountain descent in the French Alps. Overloaded and travelling far too fast, the train lost control, and 19 of its cars flew off the tracks, crashing into a ravine and bursting into flames. At least 675 soldiers were killed, many of them lost in the wreckage and fire, making recovery and identification painfully difficult. Censorship during wartime kept the full story hidden for years, but the pain of that night never left the mountains. In June of 1981, a packed passenger train in the Indian state of Bihar plunged off a bridge and into the swollen Bagmati River during a torrential monsoon. Heavy rain, strong winds, or even a sudden water buffalo on the tracks. No one knows for certain what caused the train to derail, but in moments, several carriages were swept away by the raging current. An estimated 500 to 800 people lost their lives, many of them never recovered. It remains one of the deadliest rail disasters in history, and one of the most hauntingly mysterious. In January 1915, during the height of the Mexican Revolution, a military train carrying hundreds of soldiers and their families left Colima for Guadalajara, overcrowded and dangerously heavy. As it descended a steep mountain pass, the brakes failed. The train picked up speed, uncontrollably racing down the tracks before derailing near the city of Guadalajara. The wreckage was catastrophic. More than 600 people were killed, making it one of the deadliest train disasters in Mexican history. On January 14, 1985, a passenger train derailed while crossing a curved bridge near Awash, Ethiopia. Several cars plunged into a ravine below, killing over 400 people. It remains the deadliest train disaster in African history, a tragedy carved into the landscape. On June 3, 1998, a high-speed ice train travelling through Eschede, Germany, suffered a catastrophic wheel failure. At nearly 125 miles per hour, a cracked wheel disintegrated, causing the train to derail. Several cars slammed into a bridge support, collapsing it onto the train below. 101 people were killed and dozens more injured in what became the deadliest high-speed rail accident in history. It was a devastating reminder that even the most advanced technology can break, with heartbreaking consequences. On March 2, 1944, a heavily overloaded freight train carrying hundreds of Italian civilians and soldiers stalled inside a long mountain tunnel near Balvano. Burning low-quality coal due to wartime shortages, the train's locomotives filled the tunnel with deadly carbon monoxide. With little ventilation and no warning, more than 500 people were silently suffocated in the dark, many dying in their sleep. It remains the deadliest railway disaster in Italian history, and one of the most hauntingly quiet tragedies ever to unfold on the tracks. On February 20, 2002, a passenger train travelling from Cairo to Luxor caught fire just after midnight near the town of El Ayat. The flames, likely sparked by a cooking gas cylinder, quickly spread through 7 carriages filled with sleeping passengers. With locked doors and no emergency systems, many were trapped inside as the train sped forward for miles. The official death toll was 383. Many consider the real figure to be closer to 1,000, making it the deadliest train disaster in Egyptian history. A night of horror that exposed deep cracks in railway safety. On December 26, 2004, a passenger train known as the Queen of the Sea was travelling along Sri Lanka's southern coast, packed with over 1,500 people heading home after the holidays. Without warning, a massive tsunami, triggered by a 9.1 magnitude earthquake in the Indian Ocean, slammed into the train near the village of Paralia. The force of the wave lifted the train off its tracks, crushing the cars and sweeping them inland with devastating power. More than 1,700 people were killed, making it the deadliest train disaster the world has ever seen. Not caused by human error, but by nature's unimaginable fury. In the bitter cold of January 13, 1917, a packed train sped through the Romanian countryside, filled with refugees, soldiers and families escaping the chaos of World War I. But as the train neared the station at Ciurea, something went terribly wrong. It derailed at high speed and burst into flames, a moment of panic turning into catastrophe. Between 800 and 1,000 lives were lost, many trapped in the wreckage with nowhere to run. They were fleeing war, only to meet disaster on the rails. Each of these disasters left behind more than wreckage. They left scars on families, on nations, and on the very tracks they once travelled. Some were caused by human error, others by war, nature, or pure misfortune. But all of them remind us how quickly the ordinary can become unimaginable. Thank you for watching. If these stories moved you, consider subscribing for more histories that must not be forgotten. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and remember, every journey carries a story.